Hello everyone. Today we are here to discuss the previous year NEET questions on body fluids and circulation. This is the part 6 video. So moving on to the questions. Vitamin K is required for the options given are the formation of thromboplastin, conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin, conversion of prothrombin to thrombin, synthesis of prothrombin. We know vitamin K is the anti-hemorrhagic factor. So why do we call this as anti-hemorrhagic factor? Let's look at the solution. We know that the vitamin K is required for the synthesis of prothrombin. For conversion of prothrombin to thrombin and the other factors are required. So vitamin K is basically required for the synthesis of prothrombin. So if only prothrombin is produced, it can be converted to thromboplastin. Only if thromboplastin is produced, it can be used to convert fibrinogen to fibrin in the presence of calcium. So the answer is that it causes the synthesis of prothrombin. Synthesis of prothrombin helps in coagulation of blood. Vitamin K is required for synthesis of prothrombin and blood clotting factors 1, 7, 9 and 10. Okay, so 1, 7, 9 and 10. So the answer is synthesis of prothrombin. A vein has a larger lumen because option A, tunica media and tunica externa form a single coat. Option B, tunica interna and tunica media form a single coat. Option C, tunica interna, media and externa form are thin. Tunica media is a thin coat. We know that in case of a vein, we have tunica intima, media and the externa. So the tunica media is generally thin. The muscular coating is thin. Because there is valve, there is no need for much of muscular fibers. So tunica media is thin. So the answer is tunica media is thin. Veins have larger lumen because of the walls of blood vessel is made up of tunica externa, media and the tunica interna is thin in veins. Okay, so the tunica media is thin. Tricuspid wall is found between sinus venous and right auricle, the right auricle and the right ventricle, the left auricle and the left ventricle, the ventricle and the aorta. So this is a fact. The tricuspid valve is found between the right auricle and the right ventricle. It regulates the flow of blood between the right auricle and the right ventricle. Okay, so just as we always get confused between the bicuspid valve and the tricuspid valve. Okay, so for bicuspid and tricuspid valve, we have to remember since it's tri, there is RI, so there is right ventricle. We have to remember right. So between right auricle and the right ventricle. So let's read the explanation. Tricuspid valve is present between the right auricle and the right ventricle. It has 3 membranous flaps to check the flow of blood in the reverse direction. So that's why it's called 3 cusps. There are 3 leaf-like structures. Sinus venous and right auricle are guarded by the sinoatrial valve. The opening of left ventricle and auricle and left ventricle is guarded by bicuspid valve. The opening of ventricle and aorta is guarded by the semilunar valves. So the answer is right auricle and right ventricle. Arteries carry oxygenated blood except options are pulmonary, cardiac, hepatic and systemic. We know that the pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood. Though it is an artery, it carries the deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lung for oxygenation. So the answer is pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery carries blood from the right ventricle of the heart to the lungs for oxygenation, so it carries deoxygenated blood. Breakdown of hemoglobin is option A. Breakdown product of hemoglobin is option A, bilirubin, B, iron, option C, biliverdin, option D, calcium. So hemoglobin, when it's broken down, we get only iron. It happens in spleen. Breaking down of RBC happens in spleen, and the hemoglobin is also disoriented so that we get the iron back. Okay, so the solution is the breakdown product of hemoglobin are heme and iron and globulin proteins, which is then converted to yellowish substance bilirubin extracted by the liver from blood and stored in form of bile in the gallbladder. The more appropriate answer is iron. So we can also say biliverdin and bilirubin. Calcium is not much of correlance here. So bilirubin and biliverdin are the breakdown products of RBC as such or blood as such. But when it comes specifically to hemoglobin, it's only iron that is taken back into the body in spleen. and biliverdin and bilirubin are placed in the gallbladder. So the answer is iron. So the next question, child death may occur in marriage between Rh positive man and Rh positive woman, Rh positive man and Rh negative woman, Rh negative woman and Rh negative woman, negative man and Rh positive woman. We know erythroblastosis fetalis can cause the child death. Since it is Rh oriented, so we have to correlate it with erythroblastosis fetalis. So erythroblastosis fetalis is most probably occurring in Rh negative women. So we can eliminate the options which have Rh positive women. So why are they asking the correlation for marriage? Rh positive man and Rh negative man and Rh positive woman, Rh positive man and Rh negative woman. So we know the explanation is that when we have two Rh positive and Rh negative women, man and woman, the first child can be Rh positive or Rh negative. Okay, so Rh positive or Rh negative. So the probability is that, let's say that there is Rh positive child for the mother. So during pregnancy and during the delivery time, the Rh positive blood breaks the placental barrier and enters the woman's body, and there are antibody formation for Rh positive. And when there's a second pregnancy, and this time the child is Rh negative, so this mother is also also has antibodies for Rh positive. So when this occurs, there is a probability that the antibodies enter the child and there is death. Rh factor was discovered by Carl Landsteiner. A child of Rh positive man will be Rh positive whether the mother is Rh negative or Rh positive. If mother is Rh positive, then there will be no problem. But if mother is Rh negative, so the blood of Rh positive mixes with the blood of the Rh negative, then some antibodies in the mother are formed against the Rh positive factor, which coagulate the womb blood, causing death. If birth takes place, then there is possibility of child death in early years. This is known as erythroblastosis fetalis. In most cases, first pregnancy may succeed, but after it, the second pregnancy and the consecutive pregnancies may fail. So this is the explanation. The answer is Rh positive man and Rh negative woman. Examination of blood of a person suspected of having anemia shows large immature nucleated erythrocytes without hemoglobin. Supplementing this diet with which of the following is likely to alleviate his symptoms? Option A, folic acid and cobalamin. Option B, riboflavin. Option C, iron compounds. Option D, thiamine. We know that the maturation of nucleus and the maturation of erythrocytes and enucleation of the erythrocytes is done by the vitamin B12 and the folic acid. So we have to look for the option which says folic acid and vitamin B12. So folic acid, which is cyanocobalamin, vitamin B12, and works in formation and maturation of RBCs. So its deficiency RBC formation decreases and formed RBCs will not mature. They will not lose their nucleus and hence remain nucleated and lack of the hemoglobin. So we know that this is the normal structure of the RBC. Since there is no nucleus, there is space for this. But when there is nucleus inside it, this becomes round. So the external structure cannot have the hemoglobin. So it cannot carry oxygen also. Such RBCs cannot carry oxygen and person suffers from anemia. Supplementing his diet with folic acid and cobalamin will lead to increased formation and proper maturation and enucleated RBCs with hemoglobin and eliminate anemia. So folic acid and cobalamin. The blood cancer is known as option A, leukemia, thrombosis, hemolysis, hemophilia. So leukemia is called blood cancer. Thrombosis is the hemodynamic disorder, i.e. there is formation of coagulation. Coagulation occurs in the peripheral vessels and they travel to the other parts through embolism. Hemolysis is the breakdown of blood. So this is not blood cancer. Hemophilia is a bleeding disorder which leads to prolonged bleeding time and increased clotting time also. So the option is leukemia. Leukemia is a type of blood cancer which is characterized by uncontrolled increase in number of leukocytes in the blood. Hemophilia is option A, royal disease. Option B, faulty blood clotting. Option C, both A and B. Option D, mosquito having hemosil. So what is hemophilia? Hemophilia is basically it's due to faulty blood clotting. So there are absence of certain factors which leads to prolonged bleeding time. The clotting time also is increased. So there is increased clotting time. This is infamous because most of the royals, the British royals, have this disease. And this is also a faulty bleeding disease. So the answer is option C, both A and B. Let's look at the explanation. Hemophilia is a sex-linked disease, X-linked, so it's recessive disease. In this disease, blood lacks thromboplastin protein, which causes blood clotting during the injury. In normal blood, the blood clots in 2 to 6 minutes, while in hemophilic humans, it may occur from 3 to 24 hours, due to which death may occur. This disease was first discovered by John Cato. The most famous families in which inheritance of this disease was found were the royal families of Britain and Russia. So it is also called royal disease. Presence of RBC in urine is called option A, alkaptonuria, option B, ureathesis, option C, hematuria, option B, option D, proteinuria. Alkaptonuria is the presence of alkaptone bodies in the urine. This is not a regular phenomena, it is a disease phenomena. Proteinuria is the presence of, generally when there is an ending terminal of urea, it represents something in the urine. Proteinuria is the presence of protein in the urine due to the nephrotic syndrome. Hematuria is the presence of RBC in the urine. So the solution is option C, hematuria. Alkaptonuria, also known as black urine disease, is an excretion of large amount of alkapton in the urine, which when comes in contact with the light turns black, and it is caused by gene mutation. Hematuria is the presence of blood or RBCs in urine. Proteinuria is the presence of protein in the urine. Sickle cell anemia is characterized by option A, leukemia, polycythemia, mental retardation, hemolytic anemia. Leukemia is the cell cancer, increased RBC. So this is not associated with sickle cell anemia. Polycythemia is also not associated with sickle cell anemia. Mental retardation, RBC has nothing to do with the mental retardation. So it's generally hemolytic anemia. That is, sickle cell cells are generally of this shape. So what happens is, when they enter the capillaries and stuff, they cannot bend like the normal RBC. So what happens? They break down. This is called the hemolytic anemia. That is, the heme is lysed, the blood is broken. So this is called hemolytic anemia. In sickle cell anemia, normal hemoglobin HbA gets changed in denatured form of hemoglobin S, HbS, in which hemoglobin molecule configuration changes and its shape also changes. In low O2 concentration, unable to transport O2 transportation, and RBCs become sickle shape. It is a genetic disease caused by degeneration of hemoglobin, and that is why it is known as hemolytic anemia. We have to look at sickle cell anemia. It is a special phenomenon in Africans. They mostly have this sickle cell anemia. Okay, so this gives them resistance to certain blood-borne diseases. So the answer is hemolytic anemia. Thank you for watching the video.